Hi, Celia and Tyler. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's symposium conversation based on your collaboration for the Stay at Home Symposium. And I wanted to get started by asking Celia, what prompted you to submit this painting to the symposium? And could you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I originally submitted a series of paintings, but when I talked to Tyler, we actually found that I we both wanted to make new pieces and kind of make them in parallel with one another, as a conversation and kind of like an evolving piece from both of our ends. So I actually created a new drawing, after our back and forth with one another. Um, let's see. So we actually began we did not talk to each other throughout this whole process. Um, we were actually just um, sending each other little bits and pieces of our own work and allowed our subconscious to do whatever it wanted to do. Um, And the way we started this process was Tyler sent me a piece of his music. It was about 7 minutes long, actually, which ended up being condensed. But I listened to it, and meditated on it, and sent him some sketches. And it was kind of this ping pong kind of conversational process.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so excited that this is an act of creation on both ends. We've only had this happen, I think, one other time. So it's always very exciting when the sort of visual art component becomes living, just as the musical component is. So Tyler, what was this like for you? Could you tell us a little bit about the processes that you went through?
Yeah, of course. It was really interesting working because I primarily most of the collaborating I've done in my past has been with other musicians. Kind of working with same sort of media formats. So it was really interesting to kind of do this, and also to kind of, as Celia was saying, like have less an idea of what the other person was kind of thinking while I was doing it. 'Cause, I kind of created these things based off of, kind of my interpretations of Celia's pieces that she was sending me. And, we got together at the end, and it was kind of like, what this could be completely different than what the other person was kind of thinking. Like, we have absolutely no idea. It was really fun for me because I had like a lot more freedom than I normally have to kind of like go off and experiment with different sounds and different techniques that I normally wouldn't use when doing something like this. I incorporated a lot of things that were kind of new, and I was a little scared to kind of like add these things. I was searching for things like found objects and like different extended techniques on a piano, and like I'm not a pianist, so it was it was very new for me, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, this um, type of working with one another was really fascinating for me because we did not have any clear concept throughout the entire process. It was more so we were guided by um, a feeling or like a sensation, and that was kind of our guiding light, rather than whatever we established beforehand and then base it off of that. I think it was very based on intuition and like gut feeling.
It's really nice to hear the two of you in dialogue about this. And I was struck by, Tyler, you said that this was freeing for you. And it's interesting that you said that, and I'd love to hear more about that. And also from Celia about whether you felt this was also a freeing process for you in this collaboration, because on the surface level, you'd think that this is a limitation because we're putting this collaboration in a sort of container where you're sort of bouncing ideas off of each other in this very sort of specific interdisciplinary way. But I think for so many of the participants, this has been described as a freeing process, artistic process. So I would love to, Tyler, if you would expand on that, on how it freed you up musically. And Celia, if you have any other insights on that as well.
Yeah, well, I think like typically, you know, musicians just in general, when working on things, you tend to have like very specific goals that you are working towards. Like you know exactly what it is you need to accomplish for this thing that you are, you know, learning, working on. And I think one of the things that I think worked well with this kind of like no communication thing that Celia and I were doing during this was that we just kind of we had to accept whatever the other person sent over. You know, I feel like if with communication, it could be a little limiting because, you know, you're trying to present your ideas while also, you know, making sure that the other person is also getting space to like have their ideas heard, and you're kind of like uh there's an element of like butting heads when you're, you know, and just trying to make sure that all parties involved are getting what they need. But I feel like with this, you know, kind of, you know, not kind of with no specific goals in mind, and also having no idea what Celia was going to give me, it you know, kind of freed me up to kind of, you know, just kind of do whatever and let the music kind of take its own path in a way.
Yeah, and I don't think this process was in the absence of communication like whatsoever. I think that it was just a new form of communicating non-verbally and with our own artistic practices as the language, instead of using words, which both of us aren't, well, at least I'm not the best with words and articulating myself through that. So we really just let um, we put all of our energy into what we love, um, and in that way it was a very there was very little pressure, and I didn't feel the need to stick to, again, like Tyler said, stick to one concept, something that we established beforehand. um, um, yeah, and as I said before, it was I was very much guided by this sensation, that was like evolving slowly but steadily over time with what I was creating, and then the new pieces that he sent me. And that is, I think the idea of a feeling is very, mm, it's very, it can be very vague in a good way. It's loose. It's like a fog. Like you can go in and out of it, and there are no structures or barriers to a feeling. It can really be applied to so many situations, so many personal experiences, and um, umbrella universal experiences as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's beautiful, and just the way that both of you use your art forms as a way of speaking um, in this situation is really inspiring to me. And I'm so excited to share the final collaboration with our audiences. And I hope that this can lead to further collaborations between the two of you, or new insights or new perspectives. So thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm
Yeah, it's been
so
a
glad
real
I
pleasure.
got to work with Tyler. I think we will work again. We're definitely going to work together again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.